Because what black woman would sit by and watch other black women being beaten, being humiliated, and being sworn to secrecy to not tell anybody about it? That is not what our culture is supposed to be about. Now, the topic of secret societies controlling various governmental leaders and business leaders, it's certainly not a new topic at all. In fact, I mean, if you spend some time here on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of people talking about it. I mean, when it comes to governmental leaders, anything from the Bushes, the Kennedys, you name it, in the political world and in the business world, of course, you got a whole litany of different, the Bilderbergs and all of these other people. You'll find plenty of videos on those individuals and their involvement with these secret societies. And when we do talk about them, we make sure that we include all the little details. I mean, including like the ceremonies and dark spaces that include altars and different chants. If we got access to that, you'll find people covering all of that all throughout social media. But what if I were to tell you that some of those same things can also be found in Black Greek letter organizations? Now, this gets a little tricky because when people think of Black Greek letter organizations, they tend to think of them as, kind of a social organization or, an extension of the church. In fact, many of the Black denominations that are out there were started in part, and I would say largely in part, by members of Black Greek letter organizations. And again, we see them as just these little community organizations that do little things for the community, giving out things and all that kind of stuff. So that's how they perceived on one part, in a large part, I should say, of the Black community and beyond. So as I mentioned in my last video, I'm a bit puzzled as to why did the Black community at that time even need a secret society? I mean, when you look at us where we were economically, and by many accounts, I mean, the needle hasn't moved by that much. I mean, when we here in 2024, why do we need a secret society? And the only thing I could think of is when you look at what the purpose of these societies were in the first place, it was simply to concentrate power, to isolate power from the rest of the community, be it the white community or the Black community. So Black people saw what white people were doing and wanted to emulate that. What it did was position these individuals in these secret societies, these Black secret societies, in such a way where on one hand they provided them the opportunity to be gatekeepers, so that if anybody rising up within the Black community, if you wanted greater access, you had to go through them. But it also positioned them in such a way where they themselves had greater access to what these white societies had to offer. And so this is why when, in this election cycle, we shouldn't be surprised when we see many of their members out here who are campaigning for Kamala Harris feeling as if they're entitled to talk down on the rest of us like we're some ignorant children. Because again, the position that they are in, they feel that they're entitled to talk to everybody like that. Now, have any of you guys heard of this clip from former President John F. Kennedy?
I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control.
And I think it's more than just being ironic that not too long after he made this famous speech, he ended up with a bullet in his head. But he was absolutely correct. You cannot have a society and call it a free society if it's ultimately being controlled by people in secret. That's not freedom at all. In fact, that's just the illusion of freedom. And this is exactly what we see going on within what we call the Black community today. We are a community where a good percentage of our primary and loudest voices are members of these secret societies. In fact, have you taken a toll of how many of these Black morning radio talk show hosts are members of the Black Greek letter organizations? They have literally been given the power to form the minds of millions of Black Americans who are getting ready for work, to go into the matrix as they're driving to work, as they're at work. They have been given power to formulate their minds for the thoughts of the day. That's a very powerful position. And it's something that I think a lot of us just take it, we just don't, we take for granted. We don't think about these things. But when you have a group of people who are part of a secret society, and part of their task is to make sure they mold the minds of millions of Black people and what to think for that day, that's something that we really need to pay close attention to. And in the meantime, they're the ones that are raking in millions of dollars and got tons of access to numbers of things while you're stuck in traffic. Now, if you have taken the time like I have here on YouTube, you will find that there are literally hundreds of videos. It may even be more than that here on YouTube alone of people who were members of these organizations who made the decision to renounce it, and not just renounce it, but do it publicly. I mean, this is really a huge phenomenon. I mean, we see this happening a whole lot, so much so I'm amazed that we don't see any national or, congressional hearings on this. Here you have national organizations where you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of their own members who are saying, enough, I can't do this anymore. Or because I feel this, or I experienced that. They've had congressional hearings about similar things like that, then why not this? Now, as it pertains to this video, what we're going to do is scale it to just focusing on the AKA organization and the many women who have made these public announcements and say, hey, listen, I'm done with this organization. And that's what we're going to focus on in this video. Now, in these following clips that you're about to see, it's going to be testimonies of various young women and middle-aged women and even older women who are telling their stories about what they had to go through, and specifically going into details about the ritual process. This is what I want you to pay attention to. And most importantly, I want you to keep in mind that this is the same type of ritual that our current Vice President Kamala Harris went through herself. And while a lot of people just want to wave it off as, oh, it's just a social organization, what you're going to hear is, nah, it's a lot more than just that. So again, Vice President Kamala Harris literally had to bow her knee to an altar. Now, again, if this was any other presidential candidate, government official, we will be making a ton of videos about this kind of stuff. But here we have the evidence right here showing you from all of these people who are part of the same organization, you cannot become a member of this organization until you bow your knee at an altar. And not only that, it's an altar that's in a room that's dark and it's full of candles. And they're making an oath and taking pledges to them, to each other, and to the organization.
At the ritual, right? I know some of you have heard of these things, but it's true, okay? You're not privy of this information beforehand. You're told, like, look, all these other sessions you wear black. This day, we wear white. We gonna have a little ceremony, a little something going on, and we gonna have brunch with your family, okay? That is what you think. But when you go in, it's a whole situation, okay? I recall a whole altar-like setup, like a table with objects on it and candles lit and all this different stuff, right? And this represents this and this represents that, right? I remember repeating various lines and taking oaths and repeat after me, say this, repeat after me. Very extensive, okay? And I'm going to link the ritual because that is available. I signed my name in a book. Okay, and I kneeled down on a pillow and bowed. I remember that because somebody had to help me up because I was pregnant.
My experience. But I'm going to give a little bit of context like I stated before. So, my first ritual, the first time I was asked to kneel, I came into this dark room. It was pitch black dark, and I was with all of the girls that were on my line that I crossed with. And I remember, obviously you're confused because if you know anything about these organizations, you know things are very discreet, so you have no idea what you're about to walk into. But I remember the first time I was asked to kneel, and I just remember how the room shifted. Like all the girls that I crossed with were just kind of like confused, as was I. Like we all kind of looked around, and I now understand that to me was the Holy Spirit saying, something's not right, something's kind of off here. And I remember making eye contact with this one girl which I looked up to, and I knew she was also a Christian, and I guess I was looking to her for some type of feedback, and we both locked eyes, and once again we were just kind of like confused. However, you're asked to do it and you're expected to do it right then and there, so there's not much time to think about it. And obviously I did go ahead and do it, but just the things that were running through my head was just like, this just must be a part of the process, this illustrious organization, how could anything be wrong with it, and so that's just kind of what I thought, and I pushed through, and everybody did it, and it was just kind of like, I didn't think twice about it after that. But to give more context, I'm in this dark room, I'm being asked to kneel, but at the head of this dark room is this table, and it's covered in white, and it's got all sorts of things on the table to represent AKA. And so there's letters up there that spell out AKA, there's IVs, the pledge book is up there, and then there's even a candle. There's candles, but then there's a candle in the center, and it's wrapped in IVs and it's lit. The ritual book states that this candle is a representation of Ethel Hedgeman Lyle, and I remember in some of them there even being a picture of her present also on this table. So you have this shrine of sorts that's paying homage to AKA, and this is what I'm going to be kneeling in front of. Another piece of very, very important information that I didn't know, and how could you know unless you were reading the ritual book as you're doing this, which you're not, is what did my kneeling represent? And so in the ritual book it says that the kneeling was proof of my submission. That was me proving that I submit, and so to submit means to subjugate yourself under the will or authority of someone or something, or to yield to the governance of it. So here I am, I'm before this table, I have all these things that represent Ethel Hedgeman Lyle and AKA, and I'm kneeling before it as I'm taking these different oaths to be able to become a member.
Him a lot, and he ended up like dropping line or leaving the process. So I'm just like, okay. Then another young lady speaks up, and mind you, I don't know her either, and she says, hey, I never told anybody this. She was like, but I do hair. She said one of my clients ended up passing away, ended up doing her hair for her funeral. She said she looked so beautiful. I had her done all nice. She said when she was leaving the room with the body, some people came and said, hey, they're her sisters, and they wanted to sing over her. So she said, okay, go ahead. They said, no, you actually have to leave the room. So she said she had to leave the room. They closed the curtains. They started singing and doing chants. And she said when she left the room, the atmosphere shifted. So this is a woman of God that doesn't know much about sororities or fraternities that's saying that the atmosphere shifted. She said something wasn't right. It felt really weird to her. Like it was like this demonic presence, like of evil. So when she said that, I'm just sitting here like, and I kind of could relate because that's what I felt in the initiation room that night.
I'm going to promote it until I die. And so said all that to lead up to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Being a member, joining it, you are idol worshiping. I did not know that at the time, 21 years ago, when I knelt down, said my pledges and vows and oaths and things to this organization, that's what I was doing. But it is idol worship.
Now we're going to look at the topic of hazing. Now, hazing has a very interesting history in this country. Okay, so we're going to Wikipedia for this, and as you can see, the first recorded one that they have according here on Wikipedia, it took place in 1738, and the victim's name was Daniel Reese, and it took place at the Masonic Temple in Philadelphia, Masonic Temple. During a mock initiation, flaming liquid was thrown on him by Masons led by Evan Jones. He died within days, and Jones was found guilty for manslaughter and branded. Now, this is the part that really stuck out to me. Benjamin Franklin, a member of the group, appeared as a witness for the prosecution. Now, you're going to see this as a recurring theme as we go on here. It's mentioned but not mentioned, because a lot of these similar acts are being done in rooms full of people who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are professors, who are talk show hosts. They know about this stuff going on, but yet they have taken a code of silence. But anyway, as you continue on here, going through the 19th century and all, they're mentioning all these other mostly white fraternities. It might be some, I don't see any women. Well, down here, it gets to Henrietta Jackson. So, but you see mostly white fraternities and sororities where you have other cases that took place where people either got hurt very bad or they died. I mean, one case here, they got kidney trauma. Someone else was gassed. Someone was drowned. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So by the time 1906 rolled around, that was where the Alpha Phi Alpha was founded on the campus of Cornell University. By the time 1906 rolled around, well, they had a blueprint on how to conduct their own secret societies. And instead of saying, okay, we're going to do it, but we're going to do it at a much higher standard. We're not going to do what these white boys are doing here. We're not going to beat up our own. Instead, they didn't do that at all. What they did was, we're going to copy exactly what they're doing, including requiring that some of our members or all of our members have to go through these rituals in order to be accepted. Now, take a listen to these following clips.
And I went through and I read it page by page by page. Let me tell you the two things that got me initially. First, there was 4 whole pages of hazing. We are an anti-hazing organization. It explained what hazing was physically, emotionally, all these different things. Some psychologists and lawyer did a really good job on these 4 pages. What pissed me off about that, what made me upset about that is, I know there's hazing in this organization, right? Even looking for schools for my daughter, AKAs ain't on the yard here. Ain't no AKAs on the yard there. I know they get suspended. I've sat on committees investigating these things. And it always made me so angry that how come we are upper echelon of women who doctors, lawyers, PhDs, senators, all these different people, school board members, and we can't protect these young girls from being hazed? Why are we still having this conversation? So that was the first thing that bothered me the most, is how detailed they were about this. Then flip to the next 20 pages and you got all this muddiness of scripture, a little scripture here, a whole lot of Alpha Kappa Alpha here, little scripture there. But what took me out was looking at our hymn or our pledge or whatever. To thee, O Alpha Kappa Alpha, we pledge our hearts, our minds, our strength to foster their teachings, obey thy laws, and make thee supreme in service to all mankind. O Alpha Kappa Alpha, we greet thee. When I read that, I was like, we say this all the time, but this is in my Bible.
The mother of a former Northwestern University student is suing a sorority she blames for her daughter's suicide. 19-year-old Jordan Hankins died in January of 2017. The lawsuit against Alpha Kappa Alpha alleges that hazing caused her severe anxiety and depression, which led Jordan to take her own life. Now her parents are opening up to CBS this morning in their only television interview. Jerika Duncan is outside the sorority's headquarters in Chicago. Jerika, good morning.
Good morning. As a result, Alpha Kappa Alpha was suspended from Northwestern's campus in 2017. In a statement to CBS this morning, they say they were deeply saddened by the death of Jordan Hankins. But still, the parents of Hankins believe the sorority, made up of nearly 300,000 members nationwide, should be held responsible for their daughter's death.
She had a smile that would brighten up a room. If you were feeling low or feeling down, Jordan just had this way of making you forget.
From a young age, Jordan Hankins had a passion for helping others and a gift when it came to playing sports. She won a full ride to Northwestern University on a basketball scholarship.
Going forward, I hope that we keep the same energy.
Her sophomore year, she told her parents, Felicia and Walter Hankins, she wanted to join a sorority as a way to serve others.
Did hazing even cross your mind? When she first told me that she had an interest, I think most importantly, my concerns were that they were genuine in their mission.
We know her as Revelation.
Hankins' mom remembers watching the ceremony in which her daughter became an official member of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
What was going through your mind as you're watching her? Pride, a sense of pride, a sense of relief. Because the process was over.
But just 7 weeks later, the 19-year-old took her own life in her dorm room.
I couldn't reach her, so that was my concern. So then I just started trying to call continuously, no answer, no answer. And so, ultimately, she was found the next day.
Even if you are part of sorority or fraternity, it could happen to your family. It could happen, and it did.
A lawsuit against the sorority and 9 members alleges that during post-initiation pledging, Jordan was subjected to physical abuse, including paddling, financial exploitation, sleep deprivation, and other forms of hazing intended to humiliate and demean her. The court documents say the hazing was triggering her PTSD, causing severe anxiety and depression, and that she was having suicidal thoughts. According to the lawsuit, she expressed that to her sorority sisters. It's unclear what her PTSD stemmed from. Brandon Vaughn is the family's attorney.
You believe that if the sorority hadn't hazed, Jordan Hankins would still be alive today?
That is what's alleged in the lawsuit, yes. She sounded the alarm that the initiation practices that they were subjecting her to were causing harm, and they didn't do anything about it.
She told sorority members, I'm feeling suicidal. Did she ever express that to any family or friends?
I'm not going to comment on that.
It is a dirty secret in America that the problem is pervasive and extensive in sorority life, just as it is in fraternity life.
Tom Klein represents the family of Timothy Piazza, the Penn State sophomore who died in 2017 after a hazing ritual involving heavy drinking.
The unique challenge in the case, of course, for a lawyer is linking the suicide to the actual hazing, but it does not take a quantum leap of imagination to understand that a young person who is deprived, is subjected to physical hazing, turns on herself.
So this is 8th grade.
2 years after their daughter's death, Felicia and Walter Hankins say it's the happy memories with Jordan that keep them strong and fighting for change.
It's important that I speak out, whether it was the first day after she passed away or today, so that hopefully someone else won't suffer the same fate.
Alpha Kappa Alpha says it has a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to hazing. A spokesperson also tells us that it consistently educates its members about the dangers of hazing and the repercussions, including suspension and expulsions. Now, the organization declined to comment any further on the matter, citing the sensitive nature of Jordan Hankins' death.
The mother of a Pitt student is speaking out for the first time tonight about a sorority hazing incident that she says put her daughter in therapy. Julie Grant reported on the allegations when they first surfaced last month, and tonight she has more details.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
It's been a brutal month for Sue Levy-Giles' 20-year-old daughter, Alexandria. The pre-med major from Philadelphia says that she was hazed while pledging Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority at
She cannot go to class alone. She is unable to be by herself.
The attack allegedly happened on February 21st and 23rd, but Alexandria didn't say anything until days later when her mother noticed a nasty bruise.
She broke down, sobbing.
Levy Giles says her daughter told her she and 11 other pledges were forced into a car and driven to a home in Penn Hills where they were beaten with paddles in a dark basement.
She had been kicked, pushed, punched, slapped. She had been forced to ingest rotten food.
Alexandria even broke a tooth. Penn Hills Police Chief Howard Burton told me his officers are investigating.
These young girls, they probably weren't aware of what was going on or what was right, what was wrong. I think Mom got them together and explained that, hey, that's not right.
After the alleged incident came to light, officials here at the University of Pittsburgh suspended Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. The sorority's national organization then issued a statement saying that they were appalled at the incident and have zero tolerance for hazing. Levy Giles, who is also a member of the sorority, says it's worse because her daughter wanted to be part of the group since she was a little girl.
As a mom, I'm sorry, but I wish I could have protected her. But I entrusted her to the university. I entrusted her to my sorority.
Julie Grant, KDKA TV News.
12 sorority pledges showed up at a Pittsburgh police station to file a complaint of hazing, and that complaint led Pitt to suspend the sorority. Julie Grant spoke with police today. She's joining us live with the details. Julie?
Stacey, good evening to you. Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority does not have a house here on Pitt's campus. These hazing incidents reportedly occurred twice last week at a home in Penn Hills. Now, we spoke directly with the chief of the police department there. He would not tell us where that home is located so as not to jeopardize their investigation.
On Monday evening, we had a mother come into our police station with her daughter and 11 other young ladies who were all pledges for sorority at Pitt.
The chief says the mother wanted to report the ladies being hazed by other women on February 21st and February 23rd.
The mother made accusations that these girls were taken to a house somewhere in Penn Hills and possibly smacked with paddles, something like that.
According to police, the 12 pledges are all 20 or 20 were originally from the Pittsburgh area.
At this point in time, the girls are on spring break. They're gone. None of them live around here. So we'll have to wait until they return to school to interview them and see what exactly happened.
Today, Pitt's Dean of Students sent this letter to the Greek community announcing the interim suspension of recognition of Alpha Kappa Alpha and making it clear that hazing is not tolerated.
As we had the information, we contacted the University of Pittsburgh Police. They are conducting a parallel investigation.
Where the investigation goes from here will largely depend on how much the pledges are willing to cooperate with police and give them information.
These young ladies are 20 and 21 years old. They're adults. If they don't come forward willing to be victims or say they're victims, there's not much we can do with it.
According to the chief, it seems the mother, who is also a member of the sorority, is the one who encouraged the ladies to go to police.
I think Mom got them together and explained that, hey, that's not right.
We reached out to Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority's national headquarters in Chicago to see if they have any knowledge of these complaints, and so far we have not heard back. Reporting live in Oakland, I'm Julie Grant, KDKA TV News.
Mississippi University for Women, they were having their process. Went through their rush process, and I actually was accepted. And then everything kind of all started. So I really didn't, because I was new on the campus, so I really didn't go through the pre-pledging process, but the pledging process, I did.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. There was no pre-pledging. You just kind of showed up, applied, and boom, you got in.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got online, and like, how was that experience of being online?
So that experience being online, as I look back over it now, from what I know, it was definitely chaotic. And we know that God is not the author of confusion. It was very chaotic. I was always into it with other girls that was online. We were always about to fight each other.
My experience had been, it was new for me when I worked for her because I had never worked for a high-profile woman before. I had only ever worked for men. And there was one day at work where I was like, ma'am, you might be the last woman I work for, because this is a
there's a story there.
It's a lot. This a lot that we got to deal with over in here.
And it was just so much division now that I look back on it. We were always arguing with one another. So I can remember one night they called us. We had 8 minutes to get to this location that we needed to actually go to in the woods. And it was raining. They had us in trash bags.
Did you say y'all were going to the woods?
Yes.
Girl, didn't I just joke? I just jokingly said that the Holy Ghost was gonna say something about the woods, and I didn't know that was true. I was pledging in the woods.
Yes.
Ooh, okay, I'm going back on mute. Continue.
We went into the woods and we had to link up, and we were in trash bags in the rain, and they would ask questions knowing that we really didn't know each other at all. So they would ask us questions about each other, and no one would say anything. No one actually know the answer. Didn't, make up anything of, what her favorite color was. Didn't make up anything. So they had us standing in these ivy stands, and they would place their phones on our hands. Say, if you drop my phone, such and such is going to happen to you. So the girl that they put their phone on her hand, she had to hold her hand up in that stance for long enough to not drop their phone in the mud. And it was just so chaotic. It was just so much. As I think about it now, looking back, like, I really allowed somebody to treat me that way. We had another process where, because we couldn't go back into the woods because someone found out where we did it at one of the girls that was on the line with me, dad's shop. So we would go to his building or to her house.
You said shop? Shop, like, what you mean?
He was a photographer.
Oh, okay.
So we went to his photographer shop, and they would call and say, you need to go buy me food. You had 8 minutes to go get their food. Spending my money. I was already a broke college student. Like, I'm spending my money buying you Wendy's, some chili at Wendy's. So like, okay, so of course I still want to be on this line. I still want to become an AKA. So I'm doing it. And what really got me during that process of the pledging process of one time we were at one of the girls that was on the line with me house. They came in and pledging us at her house, and they were knocking down her parents' pictures. They were just, I'm like, are you serious? Like, you really doing this in somebody's house, really just coming in disrespected, knocking down their pictures. And that really rubbed me the wrong way. But of course, I didn't say anything because I still wanted to be a part of it. So we were going through doing all type of things for them. They would come in and talk down on us, talk about us. And there was 2 girls that dropped out actually throughout the process. And then, so we couldn't finish our pledging process because we were under investigation because 2 girls had dropped out. And we were all upset and we were all mad at the girls. Like, I've paid all this money. You're not going to stop me from pledging. I've been wanting this for my entire life. Using the phrase, I prayed for this type of thing. Like, I prayed to the Lord and he finally let it happen for me. And so there was so much confusion between the girls on the line. There were cliques. We had the people that we hung with, the people that we really didn't hang with. They had their favorite people that they liked more than others. And the process just was not of God. As I look back, it was not of God.
So how long were y'all?
So this is what has always been troubling me about this. So now what has happened is that we have 2 hurdles that black people have to go through if they ever want to reach the high levels of success. The first level is the filter or the gatekeepers, that the black gatekeepers in these secret societies. You're not going to be able to access a lot of these things unless you go through them. Then if you do pass through that, then you have to go to the even higher gates of white supremacy. You have to access that. So again, why in the world are black people? Do you have black people out here that wanted to copy these white people to such a degree that they wanted to create yet another hurdle that a lot of black people have to go through if they really want to be successful in this system? Now, I want you to check out this clip that this one former AK member had to say on this.
Okay. And did you reap any benefits, like as far as networking is concerned? Like when
always.
Yeah. You put AKA on your resume, and that's one of the benefits as well is with Black Greeks. With us, you don't end after college. With white Greek organizations, once you graduate from college, that's it. But with Black Greeks, you graduate from college, you slap it on your resume. So that way, if the hiring manager is an AKA or a Delta, they see that on your resume. Hey, you're getting in the door. So I did use it a lot to network and get jobs.
Now, I can personally tell you that I've seen this play out over and over and over again, where you have good, qualified Black people who were passed over with opportunity for various opportunities simply because they were not a member of these Black Greek letter organizations. It happens all the time. Now, as I alluded to earlier, even the churches, Black churches, are oftentimes controlled by these Black Greek letter organizations and other secret societies like the Masons and so forth and so on. And you'll find that it's a lot of times it's the pastor himself and his first lady and various members of the board and all of that. You're going to find that many of these ministries are in fact controlled by these secret societies. And if you have a case where a pastor is not a part of these societies and this pastor wants to preach against it, well, he's got a problem, don't he? Because if a good percentage of his biggest givers in his church are part of these societies, well, the pastor's got a lot of figuring out he got to do, don't he? And more often than not, he will oftentimes skip the whole topic and keep it moving. Now, on the topic of reparations, well, that's another topic. Many of these politicians that people in the reparations movement are hoping and wishing and praying that they will further along the argument of reparations. Well, many of them are also part of these secret societies. Now, why is that important? Because you would think, well, these are all Black people and they want to have our best interests at heart. Think for a second. If they pushed a policy where Black people near and far in this country automatically gained access to millions and millions of dollars, well, you really wouldn't need a gatekeeper anymore now, would you? So they don't have any incentive to push this thing along. This is what people need to understand. I try to bring this up all the time and say, listen, it's a fool's errand in how this whole reparations thing is being done. I'm not saying that it's not a worthy thing. I'm not saying it's legitimate. I'm not saying that at all. But there's a lack of thoroughness in looking at the people who are leading these discussions, because you'll find that in some cases, at least, some of these leaders themselves are part of these secret societies. So according to these secret societies, we now as parents, we have to teach our kids that if you want to reach the highest height and success in whatever field that you want to go into, well, son, well, daughter, well, in order for you to reach that, you got to get your ass kicked, not by white people, but by people that look like you. They got to kick your behind in order for you to make it. And not only kick your behind, you have to be publicly humiliated by them. And as you just saw, for some people, well, they had to pay the ultimate price. So if there's any hope that the mindset of Black Americans is going to be elevated, then we have to stop looking at the members of these organizations, these secret societies, Black Greek letter organizations, Masonic orders, as simply community groups or church groups and all of that. And we have to begin to see them for what they really are. And that is, they are the enemy within. Because what Black woman would sit by and watch other Black women being beaten, being humiliated, and being sworn to secrecy to not tell anybody about it? That is not what our culture is supposed to be about. It's that kind of behavior that has to be called out for what it is. It has to be routed out, and it has to be destroyed. There's no way around this at all. And I say the same thing about the men organizations as well, the fraternities. We're telling our men that in order for you to reach the highest heights in society, you got to get your ass kicked in order for you to get to that point. And you got to go through all of this humiliation stuff in order to be accepted, in order to get friends and brothers for life. When we know that's not true, that you don't have to do that. Now, I want to personally thank each and every one of these sisters who took the time to, over the years, to post these videos of their own testimonies on what they went through and their experiences, because I know it has helped a lot of people. And I'm glad I have an opportunity to reshare these things right here on this platform. And I'll put the link to the ones that I shared in the description below so that you guys can check them out on your own. So what do you think? Is this just another, I'm overhyping things here? Is this something, oh, we ain't got to worry about that? You know, brother, you're going too far with this or whatever. Or is this something that, you know, maybe you didn't really give a lot of thought to? Maybe it's something that, you know, you've kind of tolerated. Like I said, you know, we have to get past that right now. And I know for many folks, you just have grown accustomed to this, to these kind of secret societies, because they have found they have constructed themselves in such a way within the black community that they're just your cousin, they're your uncle, they're your pastor, they're your best friend, and all of that. But when you start digging in and seeing and recognizing, wait a minute, you guys are doing this behind closed doors. Wait a minute, you're actually preventing other hardworking black people from getting positions, in the work field and opportunities in economics simply because I didn't want to get my ass kicked. So that should cause something in your brain to say, you know what? We need to look at this thing a little bit closely. So hopefully you got something out of this. And if you did, go ahead and put it in the comment section. Add your thoughts. I'm really curious to hear what you got to say on this. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in. We got a lot more coming here, and we'll probably continue to explore this topic even more. If you've been following this platform, you know we have talked about this topic for years. So this isn't anything new for us. So, and we got plenty of other videos. You can take your time and go through our catalog here, and you'll see that we have been talking about this quite extensively in the past. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. You guys take care, and I'll see you again soon.